picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up.
What happens if somebody's singing really loud and out of tune? Like, how do you kind of jump over that thing to the right note that you're supposed to sing? It's just, I'm curious.
Well, nobody sings out of tune. That's the beginning. There isn't anything like that in our band.
And so do you want to just start and share, like, you have a new single? The CD is almost sold out in its first day, which is amazing. And I think people are just hungry for new music and happy music. And I'd love for you to share how Both Ways of Love and Jenny Clover came together. And then we're going to have Will play a little bit of each as well.
I mean, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to begin. But we had a lovely, wonderful experience when you came down to the ranch that day. And you were so taken by this bovine creature, remember? And you were so inspired, as a matter of fact, you brought your guitar out to the fence and actually serenaded her, as I recall.
Yeah.
And that was quite touching, I thought. And so Marianne and I were so taken by it, we decided to add some lyrics to help you with some lyrics to the melody. And it really worked out, I thought.
So when you hear the lyrics to Jenny Clover, you think it's about a lovely maiden, from the dell in the forest, and it's really about
that was the whole idea.
Yeah, and
it's all tongue in cheek.
Yes, yeah. And I do remember you coming back from town and seeing me in the field with a guitar next to the cow and thinking this guy's crazy or something.
Yeah. No, it was very charming. It was very bucolic and kind of cool and very and we all loved Jenny. She was a beautiful creature, and she was actually a runt. She was a litter, and they usually get rid of the runts when they're in the dairy business. And we had a neighbor who owned a farm. A dairy farm, and offered her to us, and so we took her under our wing, and she grew up to be about the size of a truck. She was not a runt, as you remember, or she was, but she didn't look like one.
Yes, she was
just a beautiful, God, amazing, wasn't she?
She was a big gal, as they would say, and I love the fact that it's almost like a nursery rhyme. This Jennifer Clover. It's very sweet, and with a little very, tongue in cheek. And
she moves me. She moves you off your fence. She moves you right off your fence.
Exactly. And is this the first time that Marianne, your wife, actually is on a song, or has she worked on other lyrics before? Or since?
Oh yeah, she's very creative. She's been involved in the postcard album. She offered some lyrics to help me complete the project. Yeah, very helpful.
Jennifer Clover, I'm over the moon. Just for you, I wake up early every morning just to see you there. I love you, Jenny knows I care. The milk of your kindness is so pure. The look on your face is so demure. When you come into my garden, all my flowers bloom. In every hue, I will leave the door ajar, the pathway to my heart is just just for you. I wake up early every morning just to see you there. I love you, Jenny knows I care. I love you, Jenny knows I care. I love you, Jenny knows I care.
So pivoting a little bit here, we also have the song Waves of Love that literally we started in your barn. You played at Jones Beach. Then we went to my apartment, as you recall, that was way up the stairs. I'd love for you to share any backstory or this sort of Waves of Love gem that we've been carrying in our pockets for all these years. I'd love for you to share a little bit about your feelings and stories, recollections about Waves of Love. And then Will's going to play a little bit of it.
Well, sure. Gosh, there's so many versions of this song now that a lot of us haven't even heard, including myself, because I've forgotten half of them. But this is it was a walk up of a 5-story walk up to your place with some musical equipment, keyboards and saxophones, and we laid down a track on Waves of Love in the middle of the night, if I recall, with Richie Cannata on that great saxophone, that Billy Joel sax sound, and I believe Matt Jardine was there, and we all just had a great time doing it. It was like just an after the show inspiration, actually it started in the casino, and I guess we started actually cutting a serious track with Carl Wilson. And after we did the basic, we went to Atlantic City and added Carl to the bridge. That's what it was. So there's a lot of evolution of this until we ended up with 2 versions, entirely different. The version I have on postcard, and now this version that you produced, which we call the East Coast version, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So all the young writers write multiple versions of your songs, and then you'll get paid multiple times. And I'm sure when we unmute Martin here, he'll have more insight into that. So tell me about, like, I am like Luke Skywalker and your, Yoda of the Dit Dit. So I love the Dit Dit story. If you want to share that for a moment.
It was all started with the Crows. Have you ever heard of a band called the Crows?
No, I've heard of it.
Yeah. 1954, I think, 55. A group called the Crows did a song called G. Really strong harmonies, and it was a number one beat hit on Atlantic Records back in the. Brian and I just love that doo-wop stuff. In fact, we did our own little imitation of the G's on a version of Heroes and Villains that never really saw the light of day. But it probably has been on a lot of alternate versions that people have heard in the past. But the Dit Dits ended up being a big part of this of your version of Waves of Love, and I believe you finally got your wish, Larry, and you became the what's the term, the summa cum laude of Dit Dits.
I've got to be an expert at something, so it might as well be Dit Dits or even Ooh-la-las. But we'll start with Dit Dits. And just for anyone who's a singer, like, did you ever see people who have a really big fake smile, like they make their mouth really wide? Al taught me that if you kind of open your mouth wide and go dit dit, the sound is pushed to what's called the front palate, which is like your cheekbones and the front, and it has a brighter sound. So I actually learned a singing technical thing as well, to have a fake smile when I'm dit-ditting, and it sounds better.
A fake smile.
Yeah, dit. Well, so
you're right. You got to really, and you got to really, exuberance is the word. I think you gotta sing with your like any vocal. When you're around the mic, you just sing with that great energy, and it's like you're singing to a crowd. When you're singing to a microphone, you're really singing to the audience.
Yeah, so let's play a little bit of Waves of Love. Will has it queued up.
We have Al Jardine from the Beach Boys, Waves of Love 2.0, just released, Larry, a few days ago. And
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Great. Here we go. Let's play
I used to believe there was nothing more. I had seen and done it all before. I developed a cold point of view till the day my heart was won by you. You awakened feelings I forgot. Inside my heart I kept locked up like a hummingbird in a redwood tree. You brought the love vibrations back to me, a feeling that I never had before. I'm riding on the waves of love. They got me feeling fine. Each time we touch, feeling so divine. On the waves tonight, breaking far above. There's a place for us on the waves of love. On the waves of love. Now when love comes too easily, well maybe that's the way it was meant to be. But to keep it fresh now in every way, you gotta work at loving her each day. Send her flowers just to let her know you care. Where do we go from here? I never thought I could love you more. And every time you're here, I get a feeling that I never had before. I'm riding on the waves of love. They got me feeling fine. Each time we touch, feeling so divine. On the waves tonight, breaking far above. There's a place for us on the waves of
Yeah,
Good job, Larry.
I'm telling you, it's
Nice.
technology.
Well,
Yeah.
Carl Wilson's on this one too. He's
Mm.
just in a different octave, right?
Yeah, he's in the chorus singing with us. So, and then on the waves of love. So he kind of comes in and out with Matt, your son, who sings now with Brian and yourself. And so it's Carl and you, and then Matt and me, kind of squeaking like a mouse in the background. So what a fun! I got to tell you, everybody, what a fun thing, just to make music that you're not trying to chase the radio. The Beach Boys were really known in the time, that you were working, and Brian as a producer for exploration and experimenting. Like you used that theremin and Good Vibrations that people were like, hear this woo sound, and they're like, is that like a spaceship landing? How was that for you? Having Brian kind of come up with all of these new things, because really what we're doing is a continuation of that. It's a big conversation here on Clubhouse of this idea that we're using technology to connect and to explore in new ways.
It was a great experience. The theremin was quite a novel experience. Paul Tanner, the the player on the theremin. Used to do it. Used to record the horror movies. You know, he would do that scary theremin sound, and the musicians union found him, and he came to the session.
Amazing. And what, I mean, I'm just curious, like, what were your, I mean, you don't have to sing them, but what part did you sing in Good Vibrations? Because there's so many tracks.
I always sing under I'm the tenor under the falsetto.
Okay. So
whatever Brian's singing on top, or Bruce in this occasion, might have been at that juncture. Depends on what how many of us there were on the session. But there were, I think, 6 of us on Vibrations.
I mean, it is one of the most memorable and iconic songs of, you know, in history. I mean, what is it like when you're in that wave of just a ton of vocals?
Well, you know, you're in the moment, and it's, oh, shoot, been doing it for so many years, I can't remember. At first, probably, the first time we ever did it was really kind of freaky. We had to do it live without all the instruments. You know what I mean? We had to actually sing the darn thing. Fortunately, we had enough voices because Brian was touring with us at the time. We did a live album at University of Michigan. No, Michigan State University. Sorry, Michigan State. And we did a live album there. And so at least we had all the voices there, including Brian.
Wow.
But it's only as good as your monitors. Let's put it that way. It's only as good as the monitors.
What happens?
The vocal monitors on the floor. Because we didn't have ears at the time, so you rely a lot on your stage monitors. Have to be really blended right. So you hear all the parts, so you can sing your part to the other parts. It's nice to have all the parts in the monitor.
What happens if somebody's singing really loud and out of tune? Like, how do you kind of jump over that thing to the right note that you're supposed to sing? It's just, I'm curious.
Well, nobody sings out of tune. That's the beginning. There isn't anything like that in our band.
Well, yes, yeah.
I don't remember that ever happening.
Well, that's a really lucky thing, so I have to tell you. Yeah. We're going to play a little bit of Good Vibrations just to sort of warm everything up, because it's such a joyful thing.
I love the colorful clothes she wears and the way the sunlight plays upon her hair. I hear the sound of a gentle word on the wind that lifts her perfume through the air.
I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good vibrations.
Close my eyes, she's somehow closer now. Softly smile, I know she must be kind. In her eyes, she goes with me to a blossom room.
I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me the excitations. Good
Vibrations are happening with her. Gotta keep those love good. Vibrations are happening with her. Gotta keep those love good. Vibrations.
So, Al, if I can ask, that song was just played through Spotify, and there's over 233 million streams of that song. And this is the 60th anniversary of the Beach Boys. Over 6 decades, you've continued to write music, and I'm curious when that song came out, when you created that song with the group, thinking ahead, did you think you'd reach over 250 million people with that beautiful music?
There's no way to predict or even expect.
I'd love to know. Obviously, we can't predict how many sales anything is going to do. We can always hope. But did you, at the time, when you were creating these records, did you get that incredible sort of the rush from it? Did you know that deep down? Did you feel that you were creating something special?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I was proponent of putting that vibrations on sounds. That was my goal, and we all thought it would go on the album. But Brian was adamant about saving it for Smile, so we missed an opportunity there. But I knew it was so special that it had to go with that sounds, but it didn't. So what can I tell you?
How did it actually feel being part of that scene? What was it like?
Oh, it's great. It was the early stuff was a lot easier because it was more direct, and Brian was writing wonderful little what he called pocket symphonies, little wonderful songs that had beautiful melodies, and then the production started to be very complex because of the Phil Spector influence, and then it was more like work. When you start getting into things like Good Vibrations and Heroes and Villains. Although Heroes and Villains was a lot of fun, actually. That's one I really enjoyed a lot. We started working on that one. Even in the early years, we were singing harmonies that resembled that, but we didn't record them at the time. But we started with very complex harmonies, and that was the most fun, was just learning the freshman material. And Brian was so adept at dealing the parts to us, that it was like a template for us, the harmonies. And that's really what we were. We were a harmony band, a singing band that turned into a production outfit. And that was quite a transition for us.
Amazing. And how do you keep your enthusiasm over 60 years of making music? How do you just not want to put it down and just say, oh, I've done enough now? Where do you get your vibe from?
Well, just the songwriting is what keeps you going. Like Larry was saying, you're just getting in the right environment to write a song, that something new from a different direction, that constantly looking for another, point of view that might be interesting to people, and to listen to, and I don't know. It kind of worked for me personally, moving to the country and being able to write about things around me in the country, in this particular part of the world. getting away from the Southern California vibe and more into the Northern California vibe, you know. It's always good to change your surroundings if you're a songwriter, to continually look for different avenues, you know, to lyrically speaking, because lyrics are hard for me. I mean, I think for a lot of us, just to can have a musical inspiration, but then try matching it with the lyrics, you know, it gets challenging. So anyway, I was lucky, and I was able to call in some friends to help me finish songs. And the postcard is a good example of that. You know, a lot of folks came to the table when I asked them to, and it was really nice to have help, you know, to help me finish things.
I love the fact that you got Neil Young in and gave him a verse. That made me smile. It's like anybody else would just kind of say, "Oh, Neil, take the whole thing." But I love the fact that you gave him a verse. Absolutely brilliant. One more question, if I may. I'd love to know. I'd love to know how you feel about where music is now. You know, you've experienced so many different changes in the music business. Does the music now excite you? Does it turn you off? And have you been tempted at all to sort of like bring, you know, new influences into what is truly an iconic sound of what you do? And you know, have you been tempted just to sort of go there?
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to radio. I'm afraid I never have. Brian's always really good at that. He somehow he tries to keep pace with things, or did, I should say. I don't know about now so much, because, you know, there's so many other distractions, you know, politically and everything else in the world. You know, as you get older, you become more aware of other things that aren't so much fun to write about. So, you know, I've never really been a radio person like Brian. He'd always have his ear to the radio and trying to keep up with, you know, the current things. But I just not built that way. I'm more of a folk singer, you know, to be honest with you. I just love traditional stuff, to be honest with you, and doo-wop, of course. And, you know, I have a few other interests, but I'm not a current person. I never stay current. Marianne keeps me current. Let's put it that way. She's got me listening to the 70s now. Just kidding.
Larry, thank you for having me in the room. Martin, really appreciate you. Al, it is an honor, because the last time that I saw you was at that Grammy performance. I was there. I did Rihanna and Coldplay. But prior to that, speaking to the power of connection of Clubhouse, I met you in 1987, because you guys were so gracious when you let my father, Michael Tunes and Tunes, the sax player with John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band, they opened up for you guys, and you had my dad come on stage with you guys and play with you separate from his band. And I think he just recently did a gig with you like 4 years ago in the Caribbean.
Oh man! Oh, that's so cool. You're very welcome. Very welcome. I appreciated him so much when he was with us.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. And so the question that I'd give to the room, bringing it back to music, I toured with Madonna for the past 12 years, and I know how challenging it is taking those sounds that you painstakingly make in the studio and try to recreate them live on stage. Could you speak to how, because your production was so intricate, and sometimes you guys would carry a lot of musicians and singers, and other times you wouldn't. So how difficult was it to do that?
Well, we were basically a performance band, so it was not. We probably weren't as polished as we should have been, but apparently it worked. You know, in the early years, it was pretty much we were more of a guitar band. You know, so that was easy, and yeah, you know, three or four chords in a song. But then it got a little more complex, and we needed more voices after Pet Sounds. And now that I'm with the Brian band, Brian and I are in this is really studio quality stuff. We're back to that again. We're kind of back to the studio band again. The studio recording style. Everything's very intricate right now. And so really, the Brian Wilson band is an extraordinary studio quality sound to it. I haven't been in the Beach Boy bands in so long that I honestly can't speak about that, but I know people enjoy that performance. There are different kinds of ways of presenting it, of the music, but it was difficult at first, but we didn't know. We really didn't know, to be honest with you, how good we were or how bad we were. Because if you start reading the reviews, everybody's got their opinion, you know.
You
And
guys,
so that's
you
a
guys were
dangerous place to
amazing.
go.
I stood on the side of the stage. You guys were absolutely amazing. And I would tell everybody in this room, go and buy his new single. Don't just stream it. Go buy it. I just did. We can do that.
That's really kind of you, Kevin, coming from you. I mean, I just, we don't know who's in the room. And I just looked at your profile and put two and two together and realized, like, if you're MDing, a Madonna tour, I mean, that is a city that moves, at the highest production scale, and between the dancers and lighting and costumes. And I mean, and music, obviously, it's unbelievable. And thank you, for saying such kind words, and amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, so I'm going to just go down the line here and say, Jeff, I know that you've been here and wanting to talk, and say hi to Al that you have known from the past. So, Jeff, I'm on mute.
Hey there, Larry. Thanks for bringing it up. Hey, Al, man, it's so good to hear from you, man.
How are you?
I'm great, man. Great. Look, I don't really have a question because everybody knows I'm probably the biggest Beach Boys nerd on Clubhouse. So out of all 2 million people, if anybody has a question. But, Al, dude, every time I see you, I always ask the same question. How the hell do you keep sounding so great? And I just wanted to say, it was, as an enormous Beach Boys fan, the opportunity to get to travel and tour with you and play those iconic songs with the guy, with one of the guys who was on the records that I just grew up worshiping and that I still worship. It was just an honor, man. I mean, to play those songs, to play the Pet Sounds tunes, there were several nights where I'd look over and I'd be, I was like, oh my God, there's Al Jardine and there's Matt and there's, there's everybody. And we're playing Good Vibrations. We're playing God Only Knows. So it was an honor, man. I would do in a heartbeat anytime again. It was just so much fun. I love you and I love the music you've made. And it was an honor to be a part of that for a brief period. So thank you, man, for everything. Oh, and one more thing. Here's for those of you listening in the room, Brian gets a lot of credit, obviously, certainly do for the production and the writing, but Al, I mean, dude, your productions, Loop de Loop and your version of Cotton Fields, I still think is the better version, the production wise, of Cotton Fields. So, man, you are a fantastic producer, who I don't think gets his due on that as well. So, by all means, check out some of Al's tracks in the Beach Boys. They are fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. That's really kind.
Let's keep it moving and go to Jens.
Greetings from Berlin. We're totally locked down, but this really makes my day. It's a really great feeling. And yeah, this technology thing, it's really great that I can talk to you. At first, I want to say I also visited your tour in 2012 in Berlin, and it was really the greatest concert I've ever been to. And I really needed 2 weeks to come down after that. It was really incredible. Thanks for that. Al, my question, after that, I saw you with the Brian Wilson Band, and I also saw the Beach Boys version with Mike Love. So and somehow I had all these experiences. So, and I'm always fascinated by the Beach Boys history because it's so colorful, and you already talked about this change from being a doo-wop band to being this production outfit. And my question goes in this direction. How do you really feel about the legacy that there's this some of this gap or some of this mixture of this Beach Boys as a spiritual institution that really touches the hearts of so many millions of people, and also this kind of this shattered phenomenon that you have two bands, but both bands play basically the same music. So that's a really fascinating thing I often thought about, and I would love to hear your feeling about that.
Well, that's a loaded question, isn't it? The feeling is that we should all come back together, and for our new anniversary coming up, this big 60th anniversary coming up this coming year, and all of us should come back together. And I know Brian, I just heard from Brian the other day, he wants to come back together and do it again too. So I'm sure Mike will see it that way, and we'll do some concertizing as a unit. What's left of us. Because it's the way it should be, particularly with our new anniversary, our next anniversary. It's like a schizophrenia. We're kind of schizophrenic right now, and hopefully that'll change, and we can present some new music as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for the question. And I also thought that That's Why God Made the Radio was a really great record. So thanks for everything, Al. You're great.
Thank you very much for coming to the concert. The Brian Wilson concert. It's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you, Jens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time keeps on ticking into the future.
Yes, and Steve Miller.
Wow.
What song did Steve Miller sing on your album? On Postcard?
No, I ambushed him. He's doing Help Me, Rhonda, and I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have him sing it, and then he ended up singing the harmony somehow, and it was a different experience for me. And but he took his private time and his own airplane and dropped in to record with me, which I thought was pretty darn cool.
Wow. And that's one of your really signature songs live. I mean, that's a big decision to choose, like, who's going to sing a version of Help Me, Rhonda with you not on lead vocals.
I know. Well, actually, I misspoke. I did sing the lead, but he kind of transformed the lead slightly. Let's put it that way. But he's an inventive, wonderful. God, he's such an innovative person, and I got to know a lot about the Steve Miller experience by working with him. So that's nice to be able to share time with people that you normally would never meet, or play with. And so I learned a lot.
Your sandbox for Postcard from California had some, of the world's best artists and performers. And I guess that's a benefit of being a founding member of the Beach Boys. You can kind of ring up Steve Miller and he sort of parachutes in on his private jet kind of thing. That's awesome.
Amazing.
I had a quick question, though. Your son, I noticed, Matt, and you've mentioned your sons a couple of times, and he sang and sang beautifully, and it was really great. He was a great addition to the show. Did you talk him into getting into music? Did you try to talk him out of getting into music? And what's it like touring with your guys? That's kind of a fun thing.
He was our assistant road manager, helping out with luggage and stuff like that with our overworked staff. And then we called upon him when we needed a percussionist because he had a mild amount of experience. Not a lot actually. We had a breakdown and somehow one of the guys couldn't play for some reason. I can't remember why. And he was called on the task, and he performed so well. We decided to keep him in the band. We what's the term? We promoted him to percussionist.
That's
when he
great.
Was about well, but then after that, after that, he joined the singing band. Carl, we were losing our singers. A couple of guys were singing Brian's parts, but they just weren't cutting it. And Matt auditioned for the singing role, and pretty soon, believe it or not, he began singing Brian's parts with us. And for about since the 1980s, he's been part of the Beach Boy band too, and then now the Brian Wilson band. So yeah, he's earned his keep.
Absolutely. Anybody who claims nepotism hasn't heard him. It's good stuff. And you were great too, Al. It was wonderful. It was wonderful hearing you and seeing you.
Oh, yeah, and I got to know your son Matt, who during the '90s touring band where he just took over. Brian wasn't back yet, and he sang all those high parts, and I just in my imagination he must have had like tight underwear or something, like to reach those notes every night. It's a very sort of Herculean task, to stay on point with those very high harmonies. Because in the studio, you can redo them and double take, double track and quadruple track. But Matt has. I think Matt, and forgive us for tangenting here for a moment. We have a lot of other questions, but Matt is a really kind of unsung hero, and I really hope to see him put some of his own music out because he's his own person. He really is, and his talent is amazing.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
So everybody in the room, if you haven't, go look up on Instagram Matthew or Matt Jardine and follow him and get to know him, because he's an extraordinary talent by himself, and he is sort of, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and he grew up literally, around Al and the Beach Boys in those incredible days. So he's he's sort of the next generation of all of this beautiful sound that has come out and thrilled the world for so long.
Larry, I just want to say also, this room has become really dynamic with all of these questions from people who've obviously been fans and are musicians, and I just appreciate you, Larry, bringing this group together with Do What You Love, and Al coming in and sharing your time. I think this is really vibrant, and we're crossing generational bridges, artistic bridges. So I want to hear a few more questions if we have more time for that.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes, and then I want to let Al go because he has an appointment. But yes, please, and Al, we're going to do more of this. And what I'd like to do, if we do it again and have more time to set up, is talk about your environmental concerns. You did Don't Fight the Sea, and you've been very involved in a lot of things. The David Lynch Foundation. So maybe there's another room that we do at some point where we really talk about these passion projects of yours. I'm going to pick one or two more, and we're going to let you go. Taylor, who's next up, actually mixed Jenny Clover and played the timpanis and some of the drums on it. So Taylor, I'd love for you to say hi. You've never met Al.
Hi. What an honor to be here and to be able to speak to you all. Never in my life did I think that I'd be working on an Al Jardine track. But I was just going to ask, very rarely do people ever retire from music. Usually it's a lifelong thing. Do you constantly write music?
Yeah, you never stop.
Yeah.
It's just an ongoing process. It is a lifelong project.
Yeah, that's right. I was wondering, when were the vocals for Jenny Clover recorded? Because when I got the stems, it sounded like they were recorded, about 30 years ago or something on tape.
I honestly can't remember, but Larry actually finished it. Larry produced it. So he would be better to answer that one. I just did the lead vocal.
Right.
Yeah, Taylor, it's a combination. We started off in Al's studio, literally, as you said, on tape 30 years ago, bounced it over to digital, did some work in 2010 in Brooklyn. We came into a studio, and it was a really fun thing. I got Al on the L train in New York. Anyone who knows the L train, it's this thing that sort of is the main hub. And, it was a total very different setting than, let's say, the beautiful North California coast. And like a duck to water, we did all of this work. And then I also did a lot of vocals here and there. So it's really a stew, of a lot of different musical peas and carrots and things that evolved over the years.
Yeah. And Jenny Clover is about your beloved cow. Are there other cows that you are passionate about?
She was the last one, the first and last. She was a saintly cow. We couldn't replace her.
I see. Well, thank you so much for your time, and it's been a great blessing hearing you speak. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for what you did.
So Al, do you have time for one more question? I just wanted to, get the pulse of how it's working for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what I want to, ask, I guess, Brett, you've unmuted. So do you want to add, do you have something quick you want to say? And,
if we've got time, Larry, I'd love to. I just want to say really quickly, thank you for putting this room together, Larry and Will, and Al. Really great to hear all the stories. Very first concert I ever went to was a Beach Boys concert way back in the 70s. And I've always been fascinated with the amazing harmonies that you guys put together, both on record and then recreating them live. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how the vocal arrangements happen. Do they happen sort of organically? Is one person writing them and then just dictating, what the lines are? Do you sort of work them out, one at a time? And then secondly to that, how were they recorded in the early days? Were they done live? Were they done one at a time? I'll shut up now.
Yeah, Brian had it in his head already prearranged, so it's really easy. And the voices were on the right hand, and the bass is on the left hand, and it's real simple. And he was a master composer and arranger, so it was quite just like very effortless, to be honest with you. And we all had a natural range, and so we all fit into our own particular niche, whatever the heck you call it. Each one of us had a vocal range, and it was quite effortless, really.
And in terms of recording the vocals in the early days, was it done all at once? Was it done one at a time? How were they laid down?
All at once.
All at once. Wow.
Everything was done at the same time. The leads were usually done. Leads were usually saved for last. You had to open a track and make a track available for the lead. The tracks are done, then the vocal backgrounds, then the lead, in that order.
Cool.
And then we'd have to ping pong. We call it ping ponging vocals back and forth, to combining, I should say, would be a better term. Combining until you continue to open tracks, and you're really pre-mixing along the way as you open tracks on a 4-track machine. And then by the time you have one left, hopefully you have a good mix and you have a good lead and you've got your song. Your song is done.
Very cool. Thank you.
That pretty much does it, I think.
Yeah, you have to actually really be good at singing to track, multiple harmonies together. And certainly these days, with the way people work on Pro Tools, another thing is just, one at a time and cutting and pasting. I just want to jump very quickly to Alessandro, who signed up early as really a fan of you, Al, and the Beach Boys, and sort of literally joined Clubhouse just for this talk. I want to invite, if Alessandro wants to ask a quick question as well.
Thanks so much, Larry. Very, very quick.
Okay.
I just find that nobody often mentions your great bass playing on the early records, as well as touring throughout the 70s. I was just wondering, how did you get into playing bass? And because you play upright as well. I was hoping you could speak quickly on the bass playing.
I was in a folk band in high school, and we rented equipment. I rented the bass from my folk band for the Beach Boys' first song. But the folk music is really simple, and it's kind of stand-up was always the medium for a folk band. If you even had a bass, sometimes a lot of bands didn't even have a bass player. But I just love playing the bass. I love bass guitar. And Brian and I, for some reason, gravitated. He's a piano player and a very fine and a very good bass player as well. So we complemented each other in that regard. So it was pretty simple. Everything was so simple then, we were not studio players by any imagination, but we got the job done.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. Al, do you have to go or time for one more?
I got to go.
Okay, so
I think I better go.
Yeah, so I just want to say on behalf of, I think I can speak for everybody in this room, and I also want to let both Martin and Will unmute in a second and say, thank you. I want to thank you for coming on. It's this was totally within the last few hours that we got everything worked out to do this. And I know that you're, have a lot going on at home, and I just want to say it's an honor to bring everyone together. And anyone who wants more, please go to aljardine.com. His social guy who's there is going to get his Instagram, but there's really only one Al Jardine, so you'll find him on Facebook and Instagram. And we're going to do more of these. This is the first, and it's going to become a Do What You Love series that we welcome people to really talk about their, what makes a life fulfilling. What is how you put your passion and your profession together, like Al has done now for 60 years. So I just want to ask Will if you want to say a few words, and Martin if you want to say a few words, and we're going to let you go.
I'll be very brief. Al, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who joined today for the Do What You Love series with Al Jardine. I think some of the pearls of history that came out about how things actually happened in the early days and how Al thinks about music were really special. So Larry, thanks for helping bring this together. It's a magical day.
And I just want to second that. I want to thank you for joining us today, Al. Such a privilege, but more so, I just want to say thank you for the music, period. Amazing.
Well, thank you for being in my room.